This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
I want to tell you about our newest sponsor, Team Top Cat Sales. Are you looking for team apparel for your high school, your club sports team, or corporation? Look no further than Top Cat Sales, located on the east side of Main Street in downtown Royal Oak, between 11 and 12 Mile. Through founder and former University of Michigan QB John Wangler's leadership, Top Cat Sales has developed a tradition of selling and distributing custom Adidas team apparel with the highest quality and best service. Get your organization, school, or club team all in with Adidas today by going to TopCatTeamSales.com. That's TopCatTeamSales.com. Also, follow Top Cat on Twitter at Team Top Cat.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Episode 155 of the Doc and Jock Sports Podcast. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz?
Traffic time 118. You said it sounded good, man. That sounded like I was in a tuna can. What's going on there?
Listen, that's off of the TuneIn app recording. For those that don't know, over the weekend we promoted it. You were on WWJ AM 950, traffic on the 8s, and it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I was up till like 2 o'clock. You were doing your thing, but you did admit that a couple times you might have been a little bit... your read was just a little bit off by just a second or so. Mm-hmm. What was it like? Because, you know, I always listen to WWJ, Detroit's only all-news station. You did a really good job. I know, you know, don't be too hard on yourself, but I know you're a perfectionist, and you were asking me how it sounded, what was it like? I was just like, you know what? Adam's on WWJ doing his thing, and so what was it like?
You know, I'm one of those people where I have to go into a situation, and I feel like I have to have all my bases covered. I have to know what I'm going to expect here. And I had no idea what to expect because the only time I've done WWJ is when I'm in a helicopter. And that's basically your 5 seconds, you're in and out. You just tell what's going on, and then you're done. So this was a little bit different.
So you're at the studios in Farmington, right?
Yes.
Where 97.1 is, you could have kind of...
different set of studios.
Oh, okay.
Completely. We're actually right down the street from them. I had no idea what to expect. Never done it before. I tried asking different people, different anchors who are on the station, who do it, what to expect, and everybody gives me the same answer. Oh, it's really easy. Don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. Turns out it's really easy. Don't worry about it. It's okay. But you've got to hit certain things, and through some of my reads there was a pause or two because we have two different lockouts, and I sat there and I jumped back and forth between them. So when I was reading those, it was a little bit messy. But as the night went on, it got better, and it sucks staying up till 6 in the morning, especially when you're sitting there living off caffeine.
You know something I realized? 10 minutes goes by quick.
Yes.
It was like you do the read, boom, news, and like 10 minutes would fly by, and it was like, there you are again.
Yep. And in that time where I'm not on air, I'm sitting there and I'm producing traffic for like 9 other markets, and I'm sitting there trying to make sure there's no problems on the roadways, anything that I don't have to report, and I'm taking phone calls and all that. Interesting phone call over the course of the evening. Apparently, we have a blind listener. Like, she can't see anything. She has that issue where she wakes up in the middle of the night because everything's dark to her, so she doesn't know. But she listens to the radio, and she was listening to the radio, and she decided to call me, and she decided to let me know that she was blind. And, you know, she's like, oh, I appreciate everything you're doing. Thanks for doing your job. And it was just so weird because she's like, I'm blind, and I'm awake. And I was like, okay. And she's like, I just want to let you know that I appreciate what you're doing. Keep up the good work. And I was like, all right, we got this. Let's rock and roll. Traffic time 118. That's right. 118, baby.
It was good. And I cut up the sound, and you're like, oh, we cannot critique this. I only had one point of contention that I wanted to bring up to you because
go ahead.
I know I'm not the best with the English language, but you had said something.
Oh.
You said ETA of the police was at a certain time. And I was like, doesn't ETA mean estimated time of arrival? Mm-hmm. Did you mean that the police were going to go out to where the lights were messed up? Or I was like totally confused because you were like the ETA of the police.
Mm-hmm. I speak with many different police departments throughout the course of the night. And in this case, it was in Macomb. Ryan Road was all messed up and the traffic lights weren't working. And then I don't remember how the drop went. Do you have it on there? You go ahead and play.
I got to figure out which one it is, though, but it's okay. It's no big deal. But you said ETA of the police was such and such.
Well, the thing was, because 16 Mile and Ryan is a big intersection, they will send police out there to sit there and direct traffic. Also, the police had no idea what was going to happen when DTE or the police or whoever, the road commission, was going to be able to get the lights fixed. So their ETA was unknown.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So you did a good job, though. I want to give you credit. You showed up there. You're doing your thing, 12 to 6. You got to, go on WWJ, work a shift, and it was really cool, man. Good stuff.
Check me out every Saturday night, Sunday morning.
You really should have said
12 to 6.
You really shouldn't have said that we could call you up and just start talking to you. I'll be like,
Let's call me up on the traffic line.
And then you would answer.
I have to.
You have to answer the traffic lines.
I have to answer them, yeah. Except when I'm in the middle of a report.
That's it. And so you got a couple. Did you get any more calls besides that one?
I ended up getting 2 or 3 calls. Some bad accidents that did happen, but those were when everybody else was sleeping. So nobody was listening to that stuff while I was talking.
Okay, good. So you'll know the one that's from me is going to be like, Adam, this is your cousin on the traffic line.
We're like, what are you doing? You got work to do. Why are you harassing me?
Oh, man.
No, man, you know what? I got really lucky because my very first shift, I didn't have a whole lot to talk about, which is kind of a double-edged sword because you have less to stumble over if you're nervous, and you end up not having anything to fill time with. So you find yourself looking for other words and other things to sit there and chew up space. So I walked in, and it was like all hell had broke loose on the roadways. It was absolute bananas out there. I come in, get there about 11:45. I sit there, I check in with WWJ, let them know that I'm going to be doing the traffic reports. 12 o'clock comes around, I take over at 12. Everything calmed down. It was like super calm, no problems. The calm before the storm, because later on that morning, that was when that semi plowed through the Rouge River Bridge. So I woke up and I was like, oh, God, glad I'm not working this.
No, that's awesome. So you're going to be doing it again sometimes?
I'll be doing it every Saturday night, Sunday morning, 12 a.m. to 6 a.m.
This is going to be a regular thing.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good for you, man. Well, you know what also is good? The Tigers are on a win streak. Well, I put out a tweet on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, and I was like, well, how many wins do you expect the Tigers to get in Boston? A tough team, a team that's been playing pretty solidly at home. Most people sent us
offensive baseball team for sure. They can hit the ball all over the park.
Most people tweeted us 0-1 at best. I had thought maybe they could get 2 because Fulmer was going to pitch on Wednesday, and so far so good. 2 decent performances offensively. Still a lot of things that when you watch the Tigers, you can go, okay, there's a lot of room for improvement. But hey, you take it with victories. And so the Tuesday game was really an entertaining game. Not really pitched efficiently. Both starters got rocked. And again, Pelfrey wasn't up to the challenge. But hey, the offense finally kicked in for him, gave him some runs, and it was a solid game. And so now we're in a situation where we can sweep the Boston Red Sox, and you're going to get a home series versus Houston, but it looks like to be a tough pitching matchup in terms of the the starters. So I would say that when we were talking about what's going to happen this week, I thought you could easily go 500 this week as well. And so a lot of news and notes with the Tigers, but at least we're starting to talk about a couple of victories, and it's a better feeling to watch a baseball game, and it's entertaining when you're winning. But man, Tuesday's game was long as hell. It was a long game, slow paced.
Here's the thing. I can't handle when Mike Pelfrey pitches. There's like 1,000,005 things I'd much rather do than watch Mike Pelfrey go up there and just set himself on fire.
You mean his fastball that's slightly improved hasn't impressed you at all? It's gotten a little better.
The worst part is if you listen to what he says after the game, and he talks about that bomb that he gave up to David Ortiz, and he's like, well, I probably should have threw a breaking ball or a slider there. Instead, I got all amped up because the crowd was charged up. Well, yeah, the crowd's charged up. You got 2 guys on base here. I mean, you're David Ortiz away from loading the bases, and you're pitching to Big Papi. What? Yes, they're juiced up. Of course, control your emotions, man. You're a professional pitcher. This is your job. Instead, he's like, yeah, I got all juiced up because the crowd was really juiced, and I'm up there, and I sat there and I let a fastball fly at 93 miles an hour, and it caught too much of the plate. Look, idiot, your job is to get the man out. Don't sit there and try to gas him up with your slow-ass fastball. Come on now. What are you doing? I can't stand seeing Mike Pelfrey pitch. I cannot wait for the pitchers that are injured to get healthy, go through their DL stints, and then come back. And hopefully, please, God, please, if you don't ever listen to me, and I start to think that you don't, but it's a different topic for a different day here. Please, let them move Pelfrey somewhere else, not in the starting rotation, because I can't handle it anymore. He does not give them a chance to win. It was like a bullpen duel on Tuesday night. It was insane. It was like, who's got more bullets in their Gatling gun here to sit there and go to town? Because whoever's bullpen blinks first, that's who's losing.
And you know what's tough is that you see a guy like Alex Wilson, and we call upon him. You go, listen, the Tigers can't use Justin Wilson every single game, Shane Green. So they bring on Alex Wilson, but in a situation where it's known that he struggles. He has a hard time when there's runners on base, keeping them from scoring. And so when the Tigers blew not only a 4-run lead, but then subsequently blew a 3-run lead, you're like, oh boy, here we go. You're going to blow a lead with your bullpen. You know, Stephen Clark threw off a classic tweet talking about how devastatingly awful the Tigers bullpen is. But in the end, they came back and they won the game 9-8. I'm not going to lie, I was gripping when David Ortiz came up again. I'm like,
in the bottom of the ninth? Oh, yeah, me too.
I did not. Listen, as much as K-Rod is doing his thing, and I would say that he's probably one of the better closers now in Major League Baseball, and he's given us a little bit of a sense of relief. It just was like, David Ortiz was fouling pitch after pitch away, and I'm like, oh boy. And if you make a mistake with David Ortiz, there was that chance that he could go deep and walk off the game and things like that. But inning-ending double play, you win the game, good stuff. K-Rod is doing his thing, and now we get a chance to talk about the weekend that was for the Tigers, in that our general manager came out and addressed the media and was talking a little bit about the future of Brad Ausmus, talking about the trade deadline at July 31st. Everyone around town is going to be looking to see what the hell the Tigers are going to do. But he comes out and he basically says, listen, in essence, we've put $200 million in terms of the payroll. This is what we're going to pay out. I don't see a scenario in which we're going to make too many big moves. And the word he kept using over and over was sexy. We're not going to make too many sexy moves. And it's likely that we're just going to stand pat, and it's going to be, we're going to look at it as we're getting Zimmerman, Norris, J.D. Martinez back, and those will be our moves. And so when he said that, and I've talked about it, all week and with everybody else, talking about the Tigers, like, it kind of took the momentum, the wind out of the sails for me watching the Tigers, because you're starting to realize when you really, get the results and review what this Tigers team is, it's not a team that's going to win the World Series, and it's not a team, even with these new pieces coming back, it's going to do much. And so you really look at it realistically, pragmatically, you can't really make too many drastic moves, because what are you going to give up? And you can't, stand pat because this team is not good enough to win it all. So when he said that, I was like, maybe once or twice I would have liked to have him go a little bit more PR, but he was straightforward and honest, and I really do believe what he said, and that the Tigers aren't really going to do much at the trade deadline.
See, I'm going to disagree with you on a couple of your points that you made. And before I get to that, a question for you. When I come in here in the middle of the week and we do our show, because you're on everybody else's show, you got to help carry the Motor City Sports Rant, because Vinny took a hiatus and wanted to go do his own show, and he can't seem to get that out every single week. Vito, you keep Vito running. When Vito sits there and starts to sit there and get a little bit long-winded, you get him right back to where he needs to go. So then I end up coming in here, and then you got to talk sports with me. Are you just tired of it by the time I roll in here?
Absolutely not. I love it. I actually look forward to talking to you, because I think we have the best chemistry, and I absolutely love talking about all things Detroit sports. But what I get tired of is a little bit of going, you know what? I'm starting to feel like the window is closed, and they're trying their absolute best, to scrape and claw to get their way out of it. But you try to find hope in certain situations, but when your general manager, who I think his job is to also kind of keep the fans, keep them passionate and engaged, when he comes out and says, our manager's not a lame duck, there's a chance he could come back. When he comes out and says, we're not really going to make too many sexy moves, you know what? I think this Tiger team, with a sexy move, could do some things but the problem is, though, the balance of what teams want, and it's, realistically, he's coming out and said it. When we make calls, the first name that pops out of everyone's mouth is Fulmer, and the next mouth is Norris. So I would say, you know what, take Fulmer out and say, hey, give him Norris and Jimenez and see what you can get for him. I would do that, because really, in the end, this is the year, maybe next year, but this is the year you got to target to go for it. Go for it all in, go for it. So no, hell no, I'm not tired. I'm just a little down, because this week I am for sure down if I'm sounding it, because when he comes out and says we're standing pat, and then the talk starts getting around on radio and the newspaper that we're likely about to see the destruction of this team, it is a little bit sad, because there's no payoff. I want my ring, damn it. I want to see the title. I want to see the World Series payoff. When you get to the postseason, you get no wins. You get bounced out by Baltimore. It stings. When you get to the World Series and you're expected to crush the San Francisco Giants, you're the favorite, and you get swept, and they're celebrating on your home field. it hurts. And so right now with the Tigers, it's kind of like, oh, it's not a good feeling.
Well, here's the deal. All you've got to do, you just got to get in. If you can make it into the playoffs, there are no guarantees that you're not going to win the World Series. Just like there's no guarantees that you are going to win the World Series. But generally speaking, 500 teams get in all the time and win the World Series. I mean, it's happened to the Tigers twice, where they've made it to the dance and they basically have lost to teams that have just slightly better than 500 records. So all they've got to do is just get in. And at this point, the way that they keep winning series, or at least tying series, they really blew a prime opportunity when they sat there and faced the White Sox. They probably should have swept that entire series. They end up splitting it. But going in, all you got to do is just get in. That's the only thing they have to do. And I don't know if they're going to make a sexy move. And again, you got to try to read between the lines. No GM's going to come out and say, hey, we're looking for a starting pitcher. We're looking for some relief pitching. Maybe if there's a big bat out there, maybe we'll go out and get that guy too. Because then what you're doing is now you're letting everybody know that you're looking for something. So they're like, all right, well, what do you got? Let's take a look. Well, can I get this guy? And let me get this guy. And let me get that guy. And I'll give you this guy. And it just, you're setting yourself up to fail if you're a general manager. You can't do that. I don't believe the Tigers are going to sit there and stand pat at the trade deadline. I just don't believe it. You are too close to sitting there and catching the Indians in this division. You've still got 7 games left at the end of the season to sit there and make up some ground if you are still on the outside looking in. I think this team is getting hot at just the right time right now. What they do need is they need some help with the pitching staff, whether it be in the bullpen or whether it be a starting pitcher. All right, you got Jordan Zimmerman coming back. I think that's going to help out a lot. I think you give a guy like Boyd a shot. You give a guy like Daniel Norris a shot. Let them see what they can do. I don't think they're going to be any worse than what Mike Pelfrey's giving you. I don't think they're going to be any worse than what Anibal Sanchez gives you. I think these guys can go out there and give you 5 strong innings. That's what you need from them right now. Go out there, give you 5 strong innings. Let Anibal Sanchez, let Mike Pelfrey sit there and spot start for Michael Fulmer so you don't burn his arm out. That's kind of where I'm at with that starting rotation. I think you need to address some holes in your bullpen. The bullpens look solid lately, but I don't think you're going to disagree with me. You can always add another arm. You get something in there that can really do some damage and help secure and stabilize that bullpen. I mean, Bruce Rondon, when he's playing and he's at his best, he's very good. He can light up triple digits. There are times where he goes out there and it's like he's throwing softballs and they're slow pitch to guys like David Ortiz, and they're just getting cranked out of the box. You know, it's just, you need to add a piece. It doesn't have to be sexy. It has to have some substance to it. And I don't think they're going to be able to get anything for a starting pitcher because I just think the price is going to be a little bit too high. Again, you got to give something to get something. And this team doesn't sound like they want to give up any of their young assets. And I don't blame them. You don't want to give up on a guy like a Daniel Norris. You don't want to sit there. You don't want to give up on a guy like a Jimenez. You don't want to give up on a guy like maybe a Steven Moya. He might be the odd man out in all of this, though. He might be the one piece where you have to give up a little bit of something to get something back. So I think come the trade deadline on August 1st, I think the Tigers are going to make a move. I think they have to. You got to remember, too, Mike Ilitch has spent way too much money. You said it at the opening of this show. He's spent over $200 million on this ball club. He has too much money, too much time over the last, 10, 12, 15 years invested into this team. He wants the payoff. He needs the payoff. This team might not be as good as that 2012, 2013 team. It might not be as good as that. But again, get in, make some noise. We've seen shaky teams sit there and win it all before. The 2006 Tigers, the favorites, got hot at the right time, ended up losing to St. Louis Cardinals team. You know, you just got to get in and you just got to make some moves. That's all they've got to do. I see them being active at the trade deadline. I don't think it's going to be super sexy. I don't think it's going to be a guy where you're like, oh man, they just pulled Mike Trout. That's not going to happen. It just isn't going to happen. They don't have the pieces to deal for somebody like that. But I see them going out and making a move, bringing in some type of a relief pitcher, somebody with some substance to help settle down that back end and help this team out. Look for a guy like a Zimmerman, a Norris, maybe even, like I said, give Boyd a shot too, because he's looked strong down the stretch here. He's looked real strong. Give them a shot to sit there and even out that starting rotation. I think you'll be in a much better place.
See, the part that is interesting in that you're hopeful. A lot of people are hopeful with the Tigers, but you look at you start from the top down. Is this a World Series caliber team? No. With additions, do you think this team can be a World Series caliber team? I say no. So yeah, just getting in, you're hoping that this team gets hot, but how do you factually say this team can get hot when all along the way with Zimmerman, with Norris, with JD, they were around a 500 team. You got a situation where just last weekend, you start off the series amazing. You start off with 2 wins versus the White Sox, and then you look at the standings, you see Cleveland's playing a Baltimore team, and Baltimore is just handing Cleveland their ass. And then you got Sunday where you all you got to do is perform that first inning, do the best that you can. You lose that. You make key mental mistakes. So you lose that first game. Okay, fine. It's hard to win all 4 games. Now you come back and again you lose late. And again, you're in a situation where you don't take at least 3 or 4 from Chicago. And Cleveland would have helped you. They lost. Baltimore, I think, swept Cleveland last weekend. So you had a chance to make some progress. You didn't take advantage of it. So when you start looking at it, when you're 102 games into the season and you start evaluating and you go, well, what is this team about? You go, well, I really believe this is a 500 team that if they were to get into a postseason matchup, they wouldn't last. I don't see this team, really getting hot. I mean, at that point, are you going to count on Verlander late in the season and Michael Fulmer to get you out of jams? Because if you get to Pelfrey and to Sanchez, and there's no way Sanchez will ever pitch in the postseason, I'm so thrilled that they announced after Tuesday's game that his start is going to be pushed back, and there's no word yet on when his next start is going to be. I'm very happy they did that. But you look at this team and you go, all you really need at this point in time is a good 6 out of 8 winning streak. You just can't do it. You cannot do it because 2/5 of your starting rotation is awful, and you're really starting to count on young talent. So you got people that are counting on Norris coming back. Norris and Boyd are still young. Boyd gives up a lot of runs. He's inconsistent. You can't count on them.
What makes you a World Series contending team, though? What puts you over the top? What makes you so certain you're a World Series contending team? Because right now I'm looking at the roster of the 2006 St. Louis Cardinals, the team that sat there and beat your Detroit Tigers 4-1 for the World Series. Going through this list of guys that they had on their roster, Adam Wainwright, Jeff Weaver, those are probably your 2 best starting pitchers that I can recall. You got a guy like a Yadier Molina. He's a very good catcher. All right. And then you've got a declining Albert Pujols. Other than that, what do you have? You got Jim Edmonds. I mean, does he do it for you? What makes you a World Series contending team? Because I think they come in all shapes and sizes. It's just like girls, man. Some dudes like fat girls, some dudes like skinny girls, some dudes like porn star looking chicks with big boobs and big booties and willing to do everything. I think World Series contending teams come in all shapes and sizes. I think this team has the potential, if they can go out and they can make a move and they can figure something out with that starting rotation. You sit there and you roll out a guy like a Justin Verlander, Jordan Zimmerman comes back healthy, again, if Michael Fulmer, and you take your pick, whether it be Daniel Norris, Matt Boyd, I don't know, any one of those guys. Those are your 4 starters. I think this lineup, the top 6 or 7, is deep enough to where they can sit there and they can carry you through. I think McCann and I think Saltalamacchia, I think the catching situation will work its way out as the season goes on. I think you really have to be concerned with what's going on in that bullpen.
Well, let's start with this. The very first thing, if I was a general manager and I want to start a team, I'd want a strong fundamental team. Is this team fundamentally sound? No, because what's the one thing on the defensive side that they do the worst at? If you watch, they allow runners to get from first to second at a clip that is unbelievably terrible. They are so bad at hitting the cutoff guy that they give up so many cheap runs because they're not solid defensively. They're not as good as they can be defensively. And what else would I want my team to do if they were going to be World Series caliber? I would like to, when I throw it to the bullpen, kind of have a semblance that they're going to get 3 outs consistently in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. Well, right now, you're just hoping. You're hoping guys like Wilson, you're hoping guys like Green can hold up. But when you're throwing guys like Kyle Ryan out there, you're throwing Bruce Rondon in key situations, and you're like, hey, you got to hold the game late versus Chicago. You can't do that. He can't do it versus Chicago. How are you going to expect Bruce Rondon to, in a playoff matchup versus, a solid club, hold a lead? You don't have that confidence. You'll be gripping. And what you also need is you got to be able to get hot. Your team collectively has to string wins together. So in order to win a championship, you got to win 4 out of 7 games. Now, could they compete in a World Series? For sure. I would put them to take a game or 2 against any squad in Major League Baseball. But when you got to win 4 out of 7, you got to win a series. It's just not likely with a team that's just so up and down. And so the moves that you'd have to make is you'd have to solidify the starting pitching, the bullpen, and you need 1 or 2 more bats. So you need 5 guys. And if you want to be World Series caliber, you would need 5 more productive players. And you would need everybody that you have now to step it up a notch. McCann's being taken out of games for Salty. You got, Jose Iglesias, who needs to, be a little bit more consistent. Upton, I would say, if you ask me one player, if he just turned it up 20%, could really send you into the stratosphere. If Justin Upton could get his bat going, then you got a situation where that offense could turn around and maybe help out the starters and the bullpen. Justin Upton has just been a guy that's just there. He's getting more hits lately. He's getting back to the correction that you've talked about, but he's nowhere near the value player that we're all hoping for. So if you get him back and maybe JD comes back and he's solid, then maybe that offense will get cranking and you could say, hey, we could put some wins together. But right now, you have to hope for a lot of things to go right. And you can't just say, well, if they add a piece that it's going to gel and work right. So that's why I'm a little bit more, pessimistic and thinking that it's done. But hey, if they make a move and it sparks something and these guys come back, I would not be totally shocked if you get a healthy Zimmerman, a healthy Norris, and a JD Martinez in August. This offense can turn around, but a lot of things have to work in place. And so I'm hoping that these guys that are coming back are going to have an impact. Do you think that Zimmerman, Norris, and JD, once they come back, are going to be really solid additions August and September?
I think if they're healthy, but going back to your point where you were sitting there talking about them being a fundamental baseball team.
They're not fundamentally sound. Look, in the key game,
they're the 6th best fielding baseball team in all of the major leagues.
Okay, so what I'm saying is then, okay, and
I think if you were to say that, yes, are they sloppy on the base paths? Absolutely. They make fundamental mistakes.
I didn't even talk about that. Yeah, the base running.
What you're saying, though, is that they are sloppy when they're fielding. I think you have Nick Castellanos, who has come a long way with his fielding. He's more than serviceable at third. You've got a guy with a ton of range in Jose Iglesias. Sometimes he makes the hot dog play. All right. You got Ian Kinsler, who is incredible at second base. For a guy his age and where he's at and what you traded away to get him and what that return on investment has been, exceptional. Miguel Cabrera, he's been a great first baseman. He's turned himself into an outstanding fielder. I think your outfield is solid too. I think once you get JD Martinez back, that totally locks down right field. I think everybody goes back to playing their natural positions where they're comfortable, and I think things will even themselves out. For you to say that they're not a fundamentally sound defensive baseball team, I think you're incorrect there. I think they are. I think they do make errors and they do have mental lapses. That happens all the time. And that's frustrating, especially when you're watching a game and you got guys getting picked off at first. You got guys getting thrown out at second. And yes, that is frustrating and that is irritating. But overall, the way this team plays defense, I think they're fine. I don't have an issue. I mean, you're going to have errors. It happens. It's baseball. There are times when that does occur.
Well, fundamentally, then, the thing that I see quite a bit that results in runs is when there's a ball hit to the outfield, they miss the cutoff guy, and the guy's going from first to second to third at a clip that's a little bit too high for my liking, and they're giving up a lot of runs that way. Now, can you say that the infielders are playing solid? Of course. But in situations where I say as a whole, the defense counts as the outfield and the infield combined. And so I would say that they could do a lot better job fundamentally on the base pads and defensively. They're the 6th. If that's their ranking, that's good. But what I'd say is they give up way too many runs because of the fact they miss cutoffs and some fundamental things. And hey, they removed one of the biggest problems. Stephen Moya in the outfield was a disaster. Once they get rid of him, of course, right away solve a problem because when he was out there, he was terrible. But yes, I think getting JD Martinez back will be of help to them. They can get better on the defense and they can get better offensively as well. If you say, what is it going to take to be a World Series caliber team? You need to have a top defense and you have to have solid offense clicking at the right time. What I think this team lacks is the ability to put it all together all at once. You could have great defensive performances, then the offense goes into lulls, and your best player like Miguel Cabrera doesn't show up. Then when your offense is there, boom, then your starting pitchers give up 9-10 runs, and your bullpen doesn't hold it up. So what they need to do more often than not, of course, here and there they put strings together, but more often than not, collectively, can this team put it all together offensively, defensively, and making good managerial decisions at a solid clip? All together, 4 times out of 7, they can't do it.
I think if you get Zimmerman back, you get Norris back. I think JD going back out into the outfield, and if you can come back 100% healthy. Here's the big if. All these guys have to come back healthy. That's the issue. You can't be, I'm okay. They have to come back healthy. If they come back healthy, I think it's a dramatically different lineup and a totally different roster. You're right. Everything has to click at the same time, and I would agree with you. at certain points in the season, through actually most of the season, it seems like something is missing. There's something that's just not right. Something's a little bit off, whether it be a leadership thing, whether it be just making the right easy play, whether it just be somebody overcomplicating things, or maybe it's just the manager not putting the right guys in the right setup to sit there and win games. There always seems to be something that is missing with this team. That being said, I think you have the roster to sit there and win a World Series. I think you can do it. You just have to get there. And the way that they are playing right now after the All-Star break, I have been impressed. I think they have played well, especially sitting there dealing and trying to fight off the injury bug. If you can get a guy like Jordan Zimmerman back in your starting rotation, you get a guy like a Daniel Norris back in your starting rotation, those guys help even out that 3 and that 4 spot. I think you're doing much better. A guy like a JD Martinez, maybe he doesn't come back and maybe he doesn't hit 290. Maybe he gives you 270, but his fielding in right field helps even out a lot. You know who we've been seeing a lot of? Been seeing a lot of Mike Aviles and Andrew Romine. Those guys combined hit with a wet noodle. So you get a power bat like JD Martinez back there, all of a sudden that lineup looks much better. On top of that, he can go field right field, no problem. You don't have to put Mike Aviles out there. You don't have to sit there. You can use Andrew Romine as your infield substitution when you need to sit there and you need to either give a guy a day off or it's the 9th inning, it's a close game, and you don't trust what you've got out there. So I think getting those guys back, putting everybody back in the right place, I think this team evens out a little bit, and I think you have a World Series contending team. You just have to get to the dance. It's like going to prom, man. You just have to have some girl invite you, because otherwise you're going to be at home sitting on your couch with your mom watching Golden Girls, and you don't want to do that.
Well, I would say going to the prom also involves getting to the dance and having some fun. Sure, you can get invited, get punched a ticket, but then, the Tigers are like the situation where
Well, then that's all on you, bro.
No, listen, the Tigers are like the team where
that's all on you and your buddy Jack.
You get the girl to...
Hello, Mr. Daniels.
You get the girl to take you to the dance, then she goes off with your best friend and dances the night away, and you're off in the corner just watching.
Well, pull your hands out your pocket. Quit playing pocket pool with yourself. Let's go. Get on the dance floor.
So how do you see it shaking out? Do you see the Tigers, whether they get to the postseason, is getting to the postseason enough to save Brad Ausmus's job for 2017 to get him an extension? Because, hell, Avila was kind of going at it with the media, talking a little bit about, hey, I don't believe in lame duck managers. And at their situation right now, they haven't extended Brad Ausmus, and a decision will have to be made at the end of the year. I would say, listen, barring getting to the World Series, there's nothing that there's nothing that he could do to save his job. I would hope that they would look at it and just go, listen, we're not going to, do you the indignity of firing you. We're just not going to renew your contract, sort of thing. But do you see him coming back in any
You're
scenario?
not going to like my answer at
all. Oh, boy.
I already think it's done. I think he's coming back. I don't think there's any way in hell that he does not come back. You can sit there, you can point to the injuries this season. That's why we didn't make it to the playoffs. That's why we didn't win a World Series. We had all these injuries. You can point to the much maligned bat of Justin Upton. Justin Upton couldn't figure it out. When he finally did figure it out, he got hot. It was at the end of the season. Couldn't really balance things out there. You can point to any number of things you want to point to. Hearing what Avila is saying and the words that are coming out of his mouth,
oh boy,
I wouldn't be surprised if they sit there and they give him a 2-year contract coming up. They like what he does with young players. I think Brad Ausmus is a very smart guy. I think he sometimes outsmarts himself, and that's a big issue, especially when he's sitting there in the middle of games. He sits there and he overthinks things, overanalyzes things, instead of just maybe either A, going with your gut like Jim Leland used to do, or just sitting there rolling the dice and letting your players do what they have to do. He likes to sit there and overanalyze things, gets himself in a lot of trouble, but he is very smart. Very, very smart. If you look at what he's done with a guy like McCann has sat there and he has talked about what Brad Ausmus has meant to his career, how he's helped him develop. McCann calls a great game. I don't care what you say about his baseball bat. McCann calls a great game. I think that bat has a lot of power in it, and I think you're going to see it probably next year. I don't know if you'll see it later on this year because, again, like we talked about on last week's podcast, I think he's fighting a little bit of something. I think he rushed back from injury because Saltalamacchia was sitting there hitting the ball all over the field, and everybody was talking about, James McCann, what? We got Saltalamacchia. Oh, shoot. So I don't see a situation where, unless Brad Ausmus calls Mike Ilitch a really foul name in public or sits there and threatens to, go all Godfather on Avila, that he's not coming back.
Oh, I hate that. I would just say that I think the biggest setback that the organization had was taking a team with that roster and giving it to a young manager. He had no avenue of success Really, he had a good first year. You give him credit, got to the postseason, but that's where you earn your medal. You get swept by Baltimore. The second year, okay, you could say, well, there was a rash of injuries. The bullpen, again, was a total disaster. And so now you go, okay, hey, we retooled, we reloaded. We got Justin Upton. We got Jordan Zimmerman. We added players. We added guys in the bullpen that are supposed to be doing their job. And now you got situations where he comes out and says, well, I don't believe in using K-Rod for 4-out saves. You've blown a minimum, I think, of 10 games because of some bad decisions that you've made. He's not fundamentally sound. Everybody that looks at him sabermetrically goes, this guy is a poser. This guy is somebody that says he's using sabermetrics, but then when they start looking at it advanced, metrics and putting guys in the right situations, he doesn't do it at the clip that you would expect a successful manager to do. And so what he's doing is going back and forth from field to numbers, and he's getting himself all crossed up. And in situations where you're not really sure, has he progressed? I think he is what he is. This is a guy that, if you gave him talent, I still think would be around a 500 manager. I don't think he has yet. And what I'm saying, though, is right now he's the wrong fit at this time for the Tigers. I think with a couple more years, if he gets another opportunity, I think you got a budding young manager that could learn and evolve into something. But for what I need now to get me to the World Series, what I need somebody to make some moves that are going to help you win, that's not the guy. And it's devastating that he could probably be back. And I think that's probably another reason why some of the fans are, and it's why I sound a little bit deflated, is that I don't want Brad Ausmus to be the manager. That's all.
I understand. The way that Al Avila is talking and the way that this team is set up right now, I just don't see it happening, man. I see him being brought back for at least another 2 years. They're going to let him sit there and try to develop another guy or two, put them out into the field, see what happens. Again, Al Avila knows best at what's going on right now behind closed doors. I think that contract's already laid out, and I think they're ready to give it to him. Probably won't sign on the dotted line until the end of the season.
All right, let's take a timeout, regroup, come back, play a round of Jock Jams, and in the second half of the podcast, we have to peek in at the Detroit Lions, making moves, getting closer. By the time this drops, we'll be 1 day away from training camp opening 2016 Detroit Lions season, baby. Doc and Jock, episode 155 on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Guys, you know what's cooler than the other side of the pillow? Definitely not you when you're running around the office with that stuffy, smelly, pit-stained dress shirt that's wrinkled to the high heavens. Don't worry, Jock's got you covered here. Or should I say Lawrence Hunt has you covered. With their moisture-wicking, anti-odor, breathable, 4-way stretch, 100% cotton dress shirt that will keep you cool like a fan in the summertime. Look, guys, I've been wearing mine for some time now, and I love them. They keep me cool, dry, and fresh-looking all day so I can handle business during the day and tear up the night while I still look fresh and clean. On top of it, the shirt is made, designed, and crafted by Detroiters in Detroit. Look, go check out all of Lawrence Hunt's fashions and what they have to offer over at lawrencehuntfashion.com. That's lawrencehuntfashion.com. And if you use promo code DSP, we'll save you 15%. If you don't believe me, hey, listen to Detroit Tigers catcher James McCann. He'll tell you how it is.
I'm a jeans and boots kind of guy. And taking my wife out to eat, I love putting on my Lawrence Hunt dress shirt. The way they stretch, the way they feel, they move with my body just like a t-shirt would. I know that I'm wearing a dress shirt, but it really doesn't feel like it.
That's lawrencehuntfashion.com.
Yes, sir. Episode 155 rolling along. This is what we call Jock Jams, and this is where the Doc has lined up 3 questions around the world of sports in Detroit and nationally, and I'm ready to hear what Jock has to say. He always delivers, and what we call Jock Jams. Well, cause a myriad of hockey tweets, hockey news. Ken Holland, general manager of the Detroit Red Wings, making some moves, extending Danny DeKeyser, giving him a massive 6-year deal. The Red Wings avoided arbitration. They got to finally sign Peter Mrazek. I thought that was the perfect number. I know maybe you were a little bit upset, but when going into it, Mrazek wanted 5. The organization wanted to pay 3. All in all, it shakes out to be a 2-year deal worth $4 million per season. Now, I know that collectively, when you're paying goaltenders $10 million, it doesn't look good for your roster. A lot of people are up in arms regarding extending DeKeyser and paying him that much money. A lot of guys are getting extensions for a lot of years. And when you're looking to maybe rebuild, which I think a lot of Red Wings fans kind of want to see, we want to see a little bit of turnover, but from what we're seeing, it's a lot of more of the same. What's been your reaction to Ken Holland's moves this offseason?
Look, when you have over $9 million, almost $10 million invested in just 2 players, your goaltenders, that's never a good thing. You are basically one of 5 teams that have allocated anywhere from 12 to 15% of your salary cap to just your goaltending. That's not a good deal. This points, I don't necessarily have so much of a problem with Mrazek getting what Mrazek got. This goes back to what Jimmy Howard got and the outcry that when Jimmy Howard signed that contract for the years and for the dollar amount that he got, everybody was like, what are you doing? How are we going to be able to financially stabilize this, especially when you had a guy like a Peter Mrazek waiting in the wings? So I have a huge issue there. Dan DeKeyser, look, he's a 3-4 defenseman on any team in the NHL. Here, he's your number 1 guy. He's your best player. He gets paid what basically he should be paid. The issue I have is the term. It's a 6-year deal for roughly $5 million. I think you need to sit there and you need to put a couple more pieces on that blue line for a guy like a Dan DeKeyser. I don't like bringing back some of the same old names. You got a guy like a Drew Miller, a guy like Helm. You're sitting there, you're bringing these players back and you're signing them to astronomical contracts that they're not necessarily worth it. So I have a huge issue with what Ken Holland is doing with this team. This is no longer, just go out, write a check, and bring in a guy like a Brett Hall. Bring in a guy like a Brendan Shanahan. You can't do it anymore. On top of it, you sit there and at free agency time, your biggest move was getting a guy like a Franz Nielsen, getting a guy like a Steve Ott, getting the corpse of Thomas Vakuun in here. You've got guys that are young that everybody wants to see play. What are you going to do with these guys? You either A, have to trade them off for something, or you're going to sit there and you're going to delay their growth because now they're stuck in Grand Rapids. You got to make a decision. You can't keep playing both ways. You're half in the house, half outside the house. Shut the damn door and make a decision. Either you're in or you're out. Ken Holland has been doing this for far too long, and I have a huge issue with the way he's been conducting business lately because he's not putting this team in a position to succeed. You're allocating funds to people and to positions that you don't need to allocate funds to. You need to sit there and you need to bring up some of your youth. Use some of those guys. Let those guys get some experience. I know everybody's talking about how this team's going to sit there and it's the last season at the Joe. We've got to make it to the playoffs. You've been sitting there talking about this playoff streak for so long now. I think you've hindered your future because you've been allocating so much money and so many different players to it to try to get you into the playoffs, to continue it along, that you have now blown opportunities and chances to get really good players here and develop better players. Ken Holland is making me scratch my head and want to tear my hair out.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are really looking at the Helm deal. People are pretty much okay with Mrazek's deal. They're pretty much okay with the Kaiser's deal. But when you look at it, it's just a lot of overspending. And there is a little bit of a cap issue. They're trying to figure out ways to get back down under the cap with the Franzen and Vitali's injuries kind of making a situation where they can get some relief there. But a lot of people are looking like, well, you overspent and you still got to add really another defenseman. So this offseason, I would just probably, in my opinion, grade it out to be a B- at best, and that's just being generous. But I would also say that this team is still far away from really contending. They could probably make some noise, get into the postseason, but they're far, far away from the expectations that everyone has, and that's to hoist the Stanley Cup again. They're far away, and these moves, I don't think, bring them closer. It just probably gets them at least back into the postseason, maybe.
Well, you know what? I think the big question mark I have and what I really want to see going into next season is what they do with their defensive pairings. Is Dan DeKeyser your number 1? I think he should be, but is he your number 1? If he's not, what are you doing with Nicholas Kronwall? Because you have to remember, last season, he was a -21. He was the worst plus-minus player on the team. He was out there for more goals scored against him and his line than he was for goals that were put in the opponent's net, and that's a huge issue. We had talked about it a couple different times. He looks a step slow. He looks out of place. I think going into next season, if Nicholas Kronwall is your 5th or 6th defenseman, I'm okay with that. I can't have Nicholas Kronwall being your number 1 or your number 2 guy.
Okay. Now, with the news that Prince Fielder is out again for the rest of the season with another neck situation, wow, a lot of people have started to talk about, man, Dave Dombrowski did a great job in terms of moving that deal. You bring in an Ian Kinsler, and he's arguably one of the guys that's just carrying you this year on the 2016 Detroit Tigers team. And so that Prince Fielder move, I know you had to pay a little bit of it in order to move Prince Fielder, but hey, when you made that deal, everyone was like, oh, man, you paid him that much money for that length of time? No, that's wrong. And especially when he comes out, I remember one of the first times I think you and I erupted was when we started playing clips of him when they lost the postseason series. And he was like, dude, I'm just going to go home and hang out with my kids. And we were like, you can't say that. And so he lost all favor, all goodwill was gone right out the window once he started opening his mouth. And so he was gone. Was that one of the best moves that Dave Dombrowski probably made in his tenure with the Tigers?
It's one of Dave Dombrowski's top 3 moves. I mean, the only thing that you could probably compare it to is bringing Miguel Cabrera here. That's probably the only other move you can sit there and you compare it next to. Do you realize that Prince Fielder hasn't played a complete season since his final season in Detroit, nor has he topped 25 home runs since he last played in Detroit, or had 100 RBI since that 2013 season? He sat there and he's missed much of the 2014. He's going to miss much of the 2016 season due to injury. It doesn't look like his career is going up anymore. It looks like it's now on the downside. I think it was one of the greatest moves Dave Dombrowski has ever pulled off, was sitting there and unloading Prince Fielder. And yeah, they had to eat some of that contract and pay some of it, but in hindsight, best move they could have made. Like you said, you get a guy like an Ian Kinsler in here who has been carrying this team for much of the season. Again, really secured a weak point on that infield at second base, because remember, once Placido Polanco left, you had nothing but a hole there. So help secure that. On top of it, gives you a steady bat in your lineup, and he's a professional. Prince Fielder goes to the Rangers, and he's been hurt, had a solid season, and now he's hurt again. And it doesn't look like he's going to be able to play baseball for very much longer. Great move by Dave Dombrowski.
Great move, exactly. And so, yeah, we were talking about it a little bit, Dave Dombrowski's tenure, because the Tigers are playing Boston, and I think it's a good situation. He landed on his feet. I know he was probably not given the respect that he deserved, but hell, he's at Boston. He's not homeless. He's going to be in a situation where he can, do his thing and even spend more freely. So his tenure, he did what he had to do, and I'm glad at least one of his last moves was to help rebuild this team. And so I think that's probably the best way that he could have left.
Yeah, his move of getting Fulmer here, because remember, last season, that was a point of contention when they were sitting there trying to work those trades out. Fulmer was a must-have. In hindsight, everybody thought Daniel Norris was the guy. Oh, it's going to be Daniel Norris. He's going to take that next step. He's going to be great. He lives in a van. He shaves with an axe. This is great. No, Michael Fulmer's the real deal. He was the must-have guy. That was the point of contention when they were sitting there working out their trade. Dave Dombrowski made a solid move there.
Now, the Pistons made some news, bringing on board and signing Ray McCallum. What are your thoughts about it? Do you think he's going to stick with the squad and be a productive player in the 2016-2017 season? I think he could be a solid fit with Stan Van Gundy's system. I really think that Stan Van has the cachet where you start to give him that respect, where anybody you sign, you go, you know what? If he just works with them, maybe he can progress. They can progress as a player. I
like the signing. It's basically bringing home the prodigal son. U of D standout. Ray McCallum, he signs a 1-year, $1 million contract. He's basically your third guard behind Reggie Jackson and Ish Smith. Those are two guys he can learn from. I think, like you said, Stan Van Gundy's got the Midas touch. Anything he touches turns to gold. I think he can turn Ray McCallum into something useful, whether it be on the defensive end or the offensive end. I think this is a solid signing. Adds a little bit of depth to this team, adds a little bit of depth to that roster. Again, you're bringing the kid home. I think it's a good fit. I think it's going to work out well.
Yeah, I hope so, because a lot of expectation. This is a big year for the Pistons, and I think they're adding the right pieces, and let's see if this is the right philosophy, if the players that were brought in can execute what Stan Van wants. It's going to be a fun year, and now when a guy signs for a max deal, he's got big expectations, and I think everybody wants to know, what is Andre Drummond's free throw situation going to look like? I can't wait to see if he's going to throw it underhand, if he's going to just do something different mechanically, or just try to get to 50%. That's all you got to do.
Dude, he's come out and he said he's got it all fixed.
It's all fixed and no problem?
Yeah, he said
no problem, Bob?
This is what I was reading, and this is what I heard, okay? He said he's got it fixed. He's got a system in place. He's got a little routine. He's got his own little thing done. He said everybody will be surprised when they see it when the season starts.
Oh.
So, again.
Take him for his word.
We don't need you to sit there, and we don't need you to hit 97%. Just need you to hit somewhere close to 50, bro.
Let's see it.
If you gotta shoot like a grandma, shoot like a grandma.
50%.
If you gotta do it blindfolded, do it blindfolded. Whatever you have to do, my man, get it figured out, because now you're making buku dollars, and you, sir, are the future of the Detroit Pistons.
Jock Jams, great stuff, sir. Always deliver when we do a round of Jock Jams. Yes, sir. Episode 155 will conclude with some Lions talk, and you might be surprised, but I think we're going to be a little bit more hopeful than you may think. Episode 155, Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Doc and Jock here for Fanatic U. If you're looking for some sweet sports swag and you love your Detroit teams, and I mean you really love your Detroit teams, you got to check out fanaticu.com and get the coolest gear out there and rock your Red Wings shirt, rock your Lions shirt, rock your Piston apparel. Wear it till the wheels fall off. Michigan State, you know what? They got it too. Check out Fanatic U. They have 6 locations all over Metro Detroit. Check them out, fanaticu.com.
I want to tell everyone out there about DetroitSportsNation.com. They're a great website, and they've been very supportive to all the shows on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. They host all the podcasts. They have great writers that cover all the Detroit teams, all the college teams. Check out their website and support those who support us. DetroitSportsNation.com. The collaboration has been excellent, and it's helped us to continue to grow and have great guests, take phone calls. So our collaboration with the Detroit Sports Nation has really been successful. DetroitSportsNation.com.
Yeah, we coming now. Come on. Yeah, that's right. We put it down. It's like a family in here, just a little disabled. Putting it down, we lay them out on the table. Yeah. Who's in the house? The brothers in the house. Gotta turn it on out, but you know what we about. Kinda like Cain and Abel, a bit unstable. Don't be breaking the brain, break the whole damn table.
Thanks, everyone, for downloading another episode across our various platforms. I just want to thank everybody. Thank all the hosts who are doing great work each and every week, trying to put out the best Detroit sports content. We're rolling about 7 shows a week. Check back in a couple weeks. We got some weekly specials coming up. Hopefully some guys that we've reached out to are going to come in here for some one-on-one specials. Maybe some athletes are going to peek in here finally. We're starting to build our network and relationships, and people are calling us back, so it's all good. Stay with us here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Great things ahead in the second half of 2016. Now, cuz the Detroit Lions are about to embark on what we call training camp. We're all hoping, keeping our fingers crossed, that everybody shows up healthy, they show up in shape, and they stay that way. The Lions have made news, and they've added yet another wide receiver, but one that has a little bit of ties to the Lions in that his first game was also Steve Mariucci's first game and Charles Rogers' first game, and Anquan Boldin was an individual that has had a productive career, but in the last couple years has steadily faded, and so his role is going to be probably to be the third wide receiver. That's going to be his slot, and so everyone's asking, well, what has he got left? Because what he showed in San Francisco wasn't all that great, but some people were making excuses in that the team was terrible, it wasn't that good of a team, and in situations like that, now he's reuniting with Caldwell. They have a little bit of history together. Your thoughts on Anquan Boldin joining the Detroit Lions? Do you think he'll slot in at number 3? He'll fit there?
The way I'm looking at it and the way I'm kind of penciling out what this team's going to look like, yeah, he's their number 3 wide receiver. I like the pick. I like them going out and signing him. I think it works. I think it's going to help this team. You do realize they have, hold on one second, 1, 2, 3, 4,
a ton.
5, 6, 7, 8, not 9, not 10, not 11. He makes 12 wide receivers on this team.
There's 12? Wow.
12 wide receivers on this team. What are you going to do with 12 wide receivers?
Yeah, they're not going to give that many.
Oh,
That's for
my
sure.
God.
Some are getting cut. And that's what I want to talk to you about is that I like the fact they're bringing in a veteran, a guy that's had success before, but at his age right now, I don't want him to take away touches from a guy like a TJ Jones. Everybody's talked about him like, hey, this guy in the offseason's done his work. This is a guy that, you know, in some workouts has shown some things. You have a guy like TJ Jones, you want him to evolve. Well, then you go out there, you get a Curley, you get an Andre Roberts, and I know that the philosophy is going to be competition, but then what does this signal when you bring in a Anquan Boldin for a guy like Corey Fuller? What does this bring? What does this mean for these other guys that you've signed? And you know, I don't even know the guys 9 through 12, but what does it mean? Less touches for them.
You don't know a Jace Billingsley? What?
No.
What? You never heard of him?
When I heard about the signing, I'm like, whoa, what does that mean for TJ Jones? I actually like it in that maybe that might be used as motivation for Jones to kind of, again, shine. But I like Curley. I thought he could be a guy in a real system that could do some things. I don't know if you needed an Anquan Boldin on this team. Do you think they needed this addition?
Look, don't be surprised if this offense runs 7 wide receivers. You're sitting, you're doing a 3-man front. You got your center and you got your guards, and we're just gonna hike the ball and everybody go deep. We're just throwing it down there. Look, I like the signing of Anquan Boldin. I think it helps. I think like you said, you add a veteran, you add a guy who has a presence. You also add a guy. Do you remember the one thing we talked about when Golden Tate was signed? We love the fact that he never dropped a ball. Never dropped a ball. Anquan Boldin's the same kind of guy. Doesn't have blazing speed, so he's not going to be on the outside. He will be a slot guy. He will play inside. He will help open up the middle of the field. He's like your tight end, but he's a wide receiver. He's supposed to do what Eric Ebron was supposed to do. He will open up the middle of the field. He will catch every pass that is thrown to him, and he won't drop one of them. That's why I like it. Do I think it takes away from a guy like a TJ Jones? Yes. But if TJ Jones is that good, you're going up against a 35-year-old man. Figure it out, dude. Come on now. It's on you at that point. TJ Jones is 24 years old. If he can't beat a 35-year-old veteran in this league, who's obviously nobody really wanted him, let's be honest about this. This isn't some great coup for Bob Quinn going out there and swooping up on a guy like Anquan Boldin. There were maybe 2, maybe 3 teams discussing bringing Anquan Boldin in. Nobody made any plays at him. The Lions did. They have him. I think it's a nice signing for the Lions. I think it will help them out. I think it gives Matt Stafford another option to sit there, especially in the middle of the field. A guy who won't drop the ball, unlike his tight ends, both Brandon Pettigrew and Eric Ebron. But if you're TJ Jones, don't you want this competition? Don't you want to go out there and show that you are better than this veteran, better than this guy who they just brought in, who's going to take your place? Because going into the season, he was slotted in as your number 3 wide receiver.
See, at some point you go, damn, you bring in Andre Roberts, you bring in Curley, you bring in this guy, you still got Corey Fuller on the team. You're like, gosh, man, what do I got to do to at least get, what do I got to do to at least get them to stop signing receivers? Let me compete against 9 instead of 12. My goodness.
Raise your game, bro.
Raise your game. No, and that's, you know what? In football, that's what you need. You need a guy that's going to be hungry, and no matter what challenge is put in front of him, is going to go out there and get it. But I'm curious to see how these younger cats are going to react to the signing of Anquan Boldin. I do think he would.
Ooh, there was another guy I forgot. I forgot about Corey Fuller there.
Yeah.
So they have 14 wide receivers. Holy crap.
See, and so with this plethora of receivers, I like the competition. I like the fact that what they're doing. I like that they're bringing in guys. They're bringing in Jimmy Clausen to kind of peek in, and I guess the talk is that they're just kind of putting together their emergency list and stuff like that.
Kick the tires on everybody, man. It's
what they
football.
got.
Somebody's going to get hurt. They always do.
Yeah.
Kick the tires on everybody.
Yeah, and so with the Lions now, we're about to kick off training camp. We're going to see. I'm getting excited. Are you getting excited for the start of football? Are you ready
I am.
in that mindset for college and professional?
I am. I'm getting kind of pumped, man. Like for the show, we were supposed to have a special guest on. Didn't happen. But for the show, I was doing some research, and I was going over a couple different things, and I was really following a lot of stuff about Michigan and Michigan State. And dude, I'm pumped. I'm so ready for the football season to start. And that being said, I don't want summer to go away. I'm just ready for football at this point. And
Yeah, I think
it
so
seems
too.
like every single show that we've been doing for the last couple of weeks, we always kind of sprinkle a little bit of Lions talk in there, a little bit of something here or there to sit there and discuss, man, because I think you're ready for football as well.
I'm very much excited because it's a new regime, another chance to see what this Lions team is going to do. And I think it's an opportunity now to further evaluate and a lot of storylines too, because there is some talent on this team that we can look at and go, you know what? Golden Tate, Matthew Stafford, Ziggy Ansah. What's Ebron going to do? Is he going to disappoint us, or is he going to actually live up to the hype? Because he's been tweeting a lot. He's been responding to a lot of people, and he's like, listen, I got this, bro. He's been tweeting. He's like, I don't care. They can bring on as many young cats as they want. I got this.
It's like giving a machine gun to a baby. Just don't ever do it.
He's saying don't, him and his crew are saying don't discount Tar Heel pride, baby. And so, hey, if you're going to talk the talk, I want to see if he walks the walk. And then, of course, everyone wants to know about Matthew Stafford and how he's going to progress, and if he has, what kind of year is he going to have, and what is he going to take for him to earn, the buku bucks. But a guy that everyone's now kind of honing in on the defense, starting off as being, the guy is Ziggy Ansah. Do you think he's worthy? I think I read in the Free Press that they were ranking the Detroit Lions, and he got there ranked number 1. I was like, I would definitely put him in top 3-4 status for sure, upper echelon on the Lions. But for him to be the number 1 Lion, I'm not sure about that. I'm not even sure he's number 1 on his own defense.
Ooh, you don't?
I would say
Darius Slay?
It could be Darius Slay. It could be DeAndre Levy if he's healthy. DeAndre Levy, before he was hurt, you got to remember
He was a game
impacted.
changer.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
He was a guy that's why when he was hurt, everybody's frowned and was like, "Oh no, this is horrible." So I think Ziggy Ansah could be definitely a star in this league, but is he going to keep doing it? So I'm interested to think. You think he's number 1?
Going over the criteria for that list, I think Matt Stafford has to be that guy. I think Matthew Stafford has to be the number 1 guy. And
He might not be the number 1 quarterback on the team.
Well, Oh, Dan Orlovsky's going to push him?
No, the young
Jake Rudock?
the superstar Hall of Famer in waiting. Maybe if the book is written the right way, maybe.
Get out of here. All right. So I think it has to be Matt Stafford. He's the guy who makes that entire offense move. He's the guy who now has everything placed on his shoulders. He's the one who has to sit there and help facilitate wins on this team. I think Ziggy Ansah's a great player. I think he's going to be a star in this league. I think he's going to be exceptional. I mean, when you are mentioned with the likes of a guy like J.J. Watt, you're a stud. Just rubber stamp it, stud.
And the part that we have to keep saying is that this is a guy that didn't grow up playing football.
Exactly.
It just kind of evolved with him.
Just
and
naturally came to him. He's so athletic, and he's a physical freak. The guy is a beast. I think he's probably number 2. He's your number 2 Lion. I think Matt Stafford needs to be the number 1 guy. Whether he is or isn't, it's a point of contention because most fans can't stand Matt Stafford. Most fans don't like Matt Stafford. They think he sucks. Look at you. You're sitting there, you're praising Jake Rudock. You don't even like Jake Rudock. You're sitting there trying to read tea leaves and draw comparisons to Tom Brady. That would be awesome if he was the next Tom Brady. But I don't see it happening at all. I think Matt Stafford's got to be that number 1 Lion. And if he's not, what's that say about your quarterback? What's that say about this offense? What's that say about this team? I think Ziggy Ansah is going to be a great player in the league, and I think he's the number 1 guy in that defense. You know, and you got a very close number 2 with a guy like a DeAndre Levy, and you got your number 3 with your Darius Slay. But it's got to be Matt Stafford for me. It has to be. He has to be your number 1.
So
he's coming up on a contract where you're about to make him the richest paid quarterback in all of the league. Because the Lions are going to resign him. Let's not pretend like they're not. Let's not skirt around that conversation. You know he's got anywhere from $27 to $30 million coming to him every single year coming up. It's just the way it's going to be. That's what the Lions are going to do. We haven't had a quarterback like this since, I can't remember when. Yeah, Matt Stafford's the best quarterback we've had since Scott Mitchell. What? Yeah. So, yeah, they're going to write him a huge check. He's got to be that number 1 guy. He has to be the best player on this team.
Now, a lot of people are saying the offense should be okay. The system's still in place. We saw what they did the last 8 games in the second half of 2015. Now,
you don't like 7 wide receivers on the field?
I like the fact that they might be going with a simpler philosophy for Stafford. I think they're going to dink and dunk, and Golden Tate's going to be an emerging star, and I think he's going to do some things. The defense, though, on the defensive side, I think you have more question marks. Is that a fair assessment?
Let me paint the picture for you, okay? Let me paint the picture. And do I think there are more question marks on the defense? I think so, and I'll let you get back to your point. But I'm going to paint the picture for you, all right? It's 3rd and 11, all right? Playing in Lambeau. It's snowing because for some reason they're getting an early snow this year. It's snowing. Lions sat there. They got Graham Glasgow as their center. He's over the ball. He's got his guards to his left and to his right. Next thing you know, everybody's lined up wide. Only person in the backfield, because now, mind you, Matt Stafford's working out the shotgun. So just off center to his right side, he's got Amir Abdullah. He's a pass-catching threat, they tell me. I don't know if I believe it or not. You sit there and you got Anquan Boldin, Marvin Jones, TJ Jones, any other Jones on the team, roll them out there. Golden Tate. Who do we say? Billingsley. There's a guy that you don't know because he's a rookie. He's out there. You got all these wide receivers. Corey Fuller, he's out there on one leg. Jeremy Curley's out there. Andre Roberts. They're all sitting there. They're all lined up wide. 3 guys sit there, roll out into the curls, into a flat. You got 1 guy sitting there streaking across the middle of the field on a slant pattern. Everybody else just going deep. Going deep. Mind you, there's a 4-man rush coming at you because everybody's unprotected because you only had 3 guys sitting there trying to protect your quarterback. Matt Stafford heaves one through the snow, down the field. That's a tight spiral, cutting through the snowflakes like a hot knife through butter. The crowd goes wild as Anquan Boldin picks it up out of the air and just sits there and rumbles down to the 20-yard line because he didn't get a touchdown because he's too damn slow because he's old as hell.
Right. Yeah, no, man, no.
You don't like that?
No, that's good. That's a good tape that you can roll for NFL films and stuff like that. But no, that's not what's going to happen. You know, you're going to have a situation where they throw it back and, you know.
We're looking for some more of that back and forth type of thing, right?
Exactly.
You're kind of looking for more of that pass back and forth kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he's going to roll out there and try to throw it behind the line, and they'll try to throw a Hail Mary and just get intercepted. Come on, man. It's the Lions. Let's start, like I tell everybody.
We're reinventing the book here.
Yeah,
come on now.
No. Be pessimistic and hope they over-deliver. No doubt about it. But, you know, the Lions, you just go into the season. You hope that this is the year that they can get into the postseason, get a victory, and do some damage because, Matthew, if you can't win with Matthew Stafford as your quarterback, what are you going to do? You have a running back, you're trying to build a tight end game, you have a plethora of receivers. Yeah, I think it's going to be on the defense, I think, a little bit to really hold up their end of the deal. And if DeAndre Levy, if Darius Slay can be, solid pieces in their respective core, the linebacking core, and in the secondary, hey, maybe you could do some things with that weekend schedule. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that there's going to be a lot of impactful players, a lot of young guys, and I'm hoping that this is a team that is going to not disappoint us because this is a hungry football fan base, and we deserve something. I would say at this point in time, man, the Lions are one of those teams that could be on the verge of something good, but a lot of things have to stay in place and have to happen. And it's just, you hope that these guys that they're counting on deliver and they take that next step because you got the coaching staff in place. You've got the guy at the head of the organization in Quinn that I think is going to, retool everything and broom out all the garbage. It's up to the players. It's up to the players to take ownership of the team, do what they got to do on the field, and bring us some success. My God. All we're asking for is at least get into the postseason and get a victory. Is it that hard?
Do you think
one victory?
Do you think when Bob Quinn goes to fire Jim Caldwell at the end of the season,
right,
he's going to walk in, he's going to go, I'm not a good guy.
Yeah.
I'm not a bad guy. I'm the guy.
That would be awesome, right?
And you're fired. Superman punch him like Roman Reigns.
He'll be all politically correct. It'll be done like on a Friday when there's no, like the news dump cycle. It'll be like, in a press release, the Lions have let go of Jim Caldwell.
Here, you know what? Real question for you, though. How much of this defense and their success this season is going to be predicated on the health of a guy like DeAndre Levy? Because if you go back 2 years, he was a game changer for them.
100%.
Every time the ball basically got tipped up, thrown up, he was intercepting it. He was in the backfield all the time disrupting plays. He was making tackles that needed to be made. He was a lightning rod for that team. Last year, it was Ziggy Ansah. There's been a lot of chatter with the guy from Darius Slay, and, there were lots of back and forths with him on Twitter about whether or not he's a number one cornerback, a shutdown cornerback, a guy like a Darrelle Revis type. So if a guy like DeAndre Levy can come back and pick up where he left off 2 years ago, maybe not even be that player, but be something close to that player, and Ziggy Ansah continues to build, and Darius Slay continues to build, I think this team, the way that defense is constructed, like you said, you got one guy in each core group on your defense that can sit there and basically flip a game around on its end and take the ball the distance.
At the core level, football really is an easy game. And I'm going to go with this mantra, and we'll watch it throughout the course of the year. I'm going to watch it. Stop the run, run the damn football. If they can do those two things, I want them to just put that on the freaking wall. Run the ball, stop the run. If they can do that consistently, which they haven't done for how many years, I think throughout the length of this podcast, throughout the length of all the radio stations that have been in town, throughout the length of time as being a football fan, they need to run the ball effectively, keep the clock moving, and stop the other team from getting 5 yards every time they run the ball. They can do that. They can play the greatest game. They can play solid defense, get to the quarterback, get turnovers, and we can have success. Do that and win in the trenches. Start with the basics. Start with the very basics. If you do those things, then we can expound upon every other thing and see about, who else is going to step up among this young core on offense and defense. But let's just start with the basics. Stop the run, get the ball back on third down and long, and be able to, when you have a third and short, not have to make a decision on fourth down because Caldwell's going to be conservative and punt it away. That's all. Run the ball. Don't put it in Caldwell's hands on offense.
4th and 1, he rolls out 12 guys where he's doing that 7 wide receiver set like I was just talking about. And next thing you know, he's got 15 guys on the field because he can't count to 11. He goes 9, 10, 15. That's how he counts. I don't know why. Anyways, flag on the field. Next thing you know, from 4th and 1, now it's 4th and 6.
And you got to punt it away. That's what we're talking about. Keep it simple. I'm so excited, man. Oh, great podcast. I'm excited to see what training camp's going to bring. Although, did you see the epic diss? NFL, I tweeted out yesterday that these NFL shows that come into town to preview training camps, every team's going to have coverage. Every team's going to have...
everybody but the Lions?
Everybody but the Lions and one other squad. I don't know.
Cleveland?
Yes. You believe that? So
the redheaded stepchildren of the NFL?
We don't even get anybody to cover the Lions from the NFL Network. What are you going to do? You know what? Good. They need to prove it. They need to prove it on the field and earn that respect back. Good podcast, sir. That was
You
a good
too,
one.
bro. I can't wait for football. I'm so excited.
We are too.
You know, when we were sitting there and we were going over some show prep beforehand, we were putting the rundown together, and I was like, man, we had to talk some more Lions. I'm excited.
Yes, let's
it's
talk Lions.
Awesome, dude.
Yes,
Love it.
sir. Yes, sir. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski.
Traffic time 118.
I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And I really appreciate those that have been messaging us on our new shows and our new ideas and things like that. We greatly appreciate it. I try to like and retweet everyone that sends us those messages. We greatly appreciate it. For all news and notes, follow us on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. Visit our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. See y'all later.
Go Tigers.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head, they counsel me, they understand, they talk to me. They talk to me, they tell me things that I will do, they show me things I'll do you, they talk to me, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me.